Now we are going to look at conservation of biodiversity and wildlife. The management and conservation of biodiversity or wildlife is essentially the maintenance of the quality of the environment and the protection, preservation, perpetuation, and judicious control of the threatened or rare species of organisms in their natural habitats. It is highly essential to yield the maximum sustainable benefit for the present and future generations. The major objectives for biodiversity conservation are the following: maintenance of the stability and equilibrium of ecosystems and the balance of nature, protection, preservation, and propagation of rare and vanishing species to save them from extinction, protection of threatened species from extinction, preservation of breeding stock of wild species, maintenance of the essential ecological processes and nature's life supporting systems for the successful survival of all organisms, including mankind. Conservation of the natural gene pool and genetic diversity. This is very important for artificial breeding programs and genetic manipulations. Recycling and sustainable utilization of natural resources, which support mutual communities and major industries, rural communities and major industries. Which are the conservation measures? Conservation of biodiversity essentially involves the following measures like protection of wild animals by legislation prohibiting their trapping, poisoning, hunting, poaching, and captivation, protection of the habitats from natural and anthropogenic destruction, conservation and protection of the critical habits, feeding and breeding grounds, nurseries and resting areas, and settled homes of wildlife. Next, establishment of breeding farms, biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, and World Heritage sites to provide suitable habitats for the survival and multiplication of threatened species. Maintenance of the viable number of individuals and species in protected areas is also very important. Captive breeding in captivity of threatened species. That is the next major conservation measure. Next, acclimatization and reacclimatization of threatened species. Acclimatization is the habituation of a species in a new climate or environment. Reacclimatization is the reintroduction of a species to its old habitat where it lived formerly, but due to human activity or other reasons migrated from there or become extinct there. Next is the prevention of the destruction, fragmentation, and modification of natural habitats. Habitat improvement by providing water sites, buffer belts, etc. in or around natural habitats. Prevention of the introduction or invasion of exotic species. Protection of plants in botanical gardens and animals in zoos. This may be called ex situ conservation. Protection by the establishment of seed banks and gene banks. Seed banks and gene banks. Regulation of the international trade of wild animals and plants. Next is the protection of endangered species, which will be discussed by the next video.